Good afternoon, everybody. So today I wanted to talk to you about the construct of the narcissist and demon possession. I'm going to do a part 2 on why I know this. Okay, this one's going to be a little deeper, I do believe. So as the construct begins, there is the young child, and the young child finds that they may get reprimanded or they may get shamed a lot from the hierarchy of the narcissist that is their caregiver. So they go down the road of people pleasing, because we're both people pleasers. They just decide to people please the evil individual to become the evil individual. And we, in our innate self, knew that that was not the right way. And you got to thank God for grace that we didn't go down that road any further. So they people please the narcissist hierarchy, and what they end up doing is they get transactional gifts and things for that. They may get new clothes or a new toy, and as they get older, they become the golden child. What they end up doing is they end up mimicking all their attributes. So they will look up to them to a point to where they want to be like them. They want to get that validation. They want to have that person love them. And so they end up going down the road of idolizing them to a point to where they're copying their voice, their mannerisms, they're mimicking them completely, as that narcissist hierarchy then begins to gravitate to them and mold them as they go full force with it. Now, I don't believe that a person can get taken over as early as toddlerhood, but I do think early in adolescence is more or less when this thing culminates into a point to where it's solidifying itself. And then by the time, I think they even say in psychology, once you get past like this 14 range or something like that, you start to get to a point to where it's kind of irreversible for most, unless like an act of God, seriously gets involved. But what they're doing is they're following a demon-possessed person to begin with. So that whole construct, that framework, is beginning to build itself exactly like it did in the narcissist hierarchy. They become a chameleon, and they start to operate just like that narcissist hierarchy. When they start to go down this road, it continues to get more evil. So they have demon attachment at this point. It started from the narcissist hierarchy wounding them, or somebody wounding them. It did start from a childhood wound. It started with a childhood wound, but like people say, that our psychotherapists will even mention sometimes, that the childhood wound that may have occurred may not have been that drastic. It could have been some sort of neglect. It could have been something that maybe an adult definitely would have handled it differently. But the enemy is, if you start to look into this and all the things that occur, the enemy hits children the hardest because they're still coming into themselves. So everybody is born with some sort of empathy. God's not a respecter of person, so we're probably all born with the same amount of empathy. But in a child had an injury, a childhood wound, they haven't really fully come into themselves, then they haven't cultivated love and creativity and common sense. Meaning those pathways can be changed easier. When we talk about that the mind and heart, that the scripture in Romans, in Timothy, but it talks about the seared heart in our mind, to where it's kind of been burnt, fried. It doesn't work anymore. In my humble opinion, it's talking about these right frontal lobe areas where love, creativity, common sense, and things like that are all created from, or these are where those pathways are. And it's shut off. It's not necessarily shut off because they are now possessed, but early in childhood, I would say in adolescence, is probably where this really occurs, to a level to where it starts to get irreversible. up until that age of 14 range. It's very pivotal. And what they're doing, those pathways can be easier. They're more easily changed at a younger age because you haven't cultivated that pathway. It's kind of like digging it out. It's kind of like if you had a pathway in the woods and, you know, once you start walking on it, well, the grass dies, but then you start to get it, it starts to become concave after years and years of walking on it. Okay, that pathway, as you get older, those pathways are more indented. They're more of a path of least resistance. So what the narcissist child does is these pathways get kind of changed. It's kind of like rivers or creeks or something. It's like the river, the direction of the river changed. They continue to cultivate it because part of the reason is they had the childhood wound, but then they also went down the road of idolizing this narcissist hierarchy. And it was an idolization and it was evil, and they still idolized. And this happens slowly. It's insidious as well. Everything the narcissist does to you and ways they attack you, they were attacked and they were taken down. So just like they work insidiously in the relationship when you were with them, that's how the enemy worked on them, slowly chipping away and building another layer of construct, another layer of manipulation. And what happens is that demon attachment that's maybe on the outside that is attached to them, and it's attached to them because they have things like more of anger and hate and rebellion and unforgiveness and things like that. And then they start to have hopelessness and depression, anxiety, whatever. And then they start manipulating. But it's young enough to where they were able to form these pathways, and that's where love was able to be obsolete. So if you change the pathways early enough in the construct of a child, then it will be to where it's not operative when you're an adult. So they walk down the path of this manipulative hierarchy construct, copying them at such an early age that it's almost like they never experienced love, because the love that they were born with, they changed the pathway and refused to operate in love because they followed the narcissist hierarchy as their idol. And the narcissist hierarchy that they followed didn't have any love. And they were full on manipulative as well. And these are the doorways that open the individual up to now that thing coming in. It doesn't have to be, say, reading a witchcraft book, although this is witchcraft because manipulation and lying, cheating, stealing, all these things are the construct of witchcraft. And once it gets in, it has the doorway in, then it has more of an ability to convince them from the inside out. And that's when it gets more of where it says you can have something can have a foothold, an entity or an issue that you have, a spirit can have a foothold on you, but then it becomes a stronghold, which means you start to believe it, then you start to operate in it, and then over time that's all you know, or you're too fearful to do anything else, to change. Because the change would be almost to go it is to go the complete opposite direction. And so with fear of change, of making a complete 180 is too much. But once these pathways, love would have to be shut off at an early age for them to have no love at this point. It would have to be. And that's what happened. They idolized the narcissist hierarchy. Whether they loved them or they knew that it would work or they liked it, they formed some sort of behavior to where it was enticing, and they ended up liking it, abusing and using it for their own benefit. Now, from wherever they started, they may have started in the early childhood around that trauma time where things would happen to them and they would always fail, or there would always be failures, at least to them, because they would be mistreated each time. They wouldn't accomplish, what they wanted. And so it would just continue down the road of failure. At least that's the way they would look at it. You have a lot of failures in early childhood because you're new at this, you're new at life. And if you didn't have people giving you a good direction, like even most of us, we were in the same boat to some degree. When you don't have that good direction, then you're going to fail a lot, but it doesn't mean that you got to turn yourself over to evil. See, that's where we refused evil and they accepted it. And this is where they get to a place to where they believe that they're perfect. The thing then starts to, inside them, tell them that the threat's not from the inside, but it's coming from the outside. It's all of the threat is coming from out there. And now that they have made these decisions to give up on love or close that pathway down, now they're getting success because they have this entity inside that is leading them down a road of it's damning, it's not successful. But to them, they had goals and their goals are being accomplished now, but they're being accomplished through manipulation of this demonic entity. But even the goals that they're trying to accomplish are maybe not even good. They're not even good goals a lot of times. But regardless, it is happening with what they are seeing through their eyes as a form of perfection, because they have this thing leading them down a manipulative path. So they are getting direction that will accomplish the goal, but accomplish the goal through the manipulation and through the evil construct. So for us, we always look at our soul. Our soul is the most important thing at stake, to where the narcissist or the narcissist child and the narcissist now, they look at goals they have accomplishments and goals that they're trying to reach, but they're by any means necessary, and they're not concerned about their soul. But see, you have to get to a point, like I said in one of the past podcasts, that to get to a point to where you're permanent possession. And somebody asked, what is perfect possession? Like I'm saying, it's something good or something. This is what the Catholic Church and Father Malachi Martin called it. That means to say that they would Malachi Martin used to do deliverance on a lot of crazy situations, and if you've read his material, you would know that they call it perfect possession, meaning that you cannot, there's some people that he would say that you cannot deliver. It's impossible. So they titled it as perfect possession. I like to call it more like permanent possession because it's easier to understand, in my opinion. So I'm not saying it's a good thing where it's perfectly good or anything. But to get back on topic, they manipulate to a point where their goals are being won or achieved, but it's through manipulation, and they're losing their soul over it. And once those doors of love close down completely, because those pathways, it's just like a stream of water. The stream of water, it can either flow more water in and make the pathway larger, or you can dam it up and send the water in a different direction, and it's going to dry up, and you're not even going to know that there was a river there before. And this is what I mean by closing it up completely, is there's a vein, a vessel, and these vessels get so unused that they're almost just, there's no fluid in there. They've redirected all of the neurotransmitters somewhere else, and it's like a wall of matter. It's not operable. It's like if you had the river going this way, now you got a big mound of dirt there, and it's forced to go this way, and this is unused now in their brain. And so it's unable to be used anymore. And I think that's why it talks about in the Bible where this is like seared heart and mind, meaning it's just unusable. But see, why they don't have creativity, love, and common sense? Because they never got to an age level to where they came into themselves full enough. So if attack like this would have happened maybe when they were 20 years old and they had already cultivated love, compassion, the fruits of the spirit, and creativity, and common sense, then they couldn't be forced into a permanent possession type status, because they're too far cultivated. I mean, what I'm saying is you might could get possessed, but not to a point to where it's permanent. So it's like this. They have an anatomical permanent problem now because they didn't use it. And then they get the spiritual issue that they open doors to that now infills them, and it's a double whammy. I mean, if, like I said in the past podcasts, that these are individuals that are different type of possession than other types of possession, because there could be somebody that gets possessed, but they can get delivered because they have this construct is not to where the love centers and the creativity centers and the common sense centers are already shut down. So it's kind of like if you were to deliver a narcissist, if you even could, I don't even think you can. That's the problem. I don't even think you can, because of the fact that they have to be willing to forgive. They have to be willing to lay down pride, and they have to be willing to understand that they're not perfect. And that's all the things they can't do because they shut it down now. So even if you got them delivered, they would still act just like a demon. They actually wouldn't need a demon because they shut down everything good in their life, and it's permanent. Now, this is my theory, but I'm just saying, I don't want to, for those out there that have hope for somebody, I don't want to be the one to tell you this is fact, but this is what I am starting to believe through the research and all of the information and understanding the word and understanding this construct. They get told from the inside that all of the threats on the outside, it has nothing. They're told that they're perfect. And they actually seen a lot of things culminate in their life in some sort of a perfection. But like I said, it was through manipulation, through lies, cheating, and all these tools that came in with this entity, or the tools that they copied off of their narcissist hierarchy. Traits, mannerisms, sounds, tones. You know, they say that when the narcissist is trying to spell you, they're talking to you at a certain type of tone, and they do. It's almost like they'll lullaby you with this eerie, comfortable type weird voice, but it's not comfortable because we oppose that. But it's spelling. And the reason why they seem so robotic is because they never cultivated, and evil is because they never cultivated creativity, love, and common sense. And when you shut those down, or if you just shut love down, everything goes with love. You can only, it even talked about the demons of old that God said when they were in when they were the Nephilim, the giants in the land, that he said they were only thinking evil in their hearts always continuously. When you have no love, you can only think evil in your hearts always continuously, because love is what makes us humanity. It's not because you look like humanity. It's because you have love, y'all. And I think that's why the greatest description that represents God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost is love. Because the root of everything that both God and man are known for is love. Without the love, he says that you are like a clanging instrument with no fruit. Truth is associated with love. Long-suffering is associated with love. Goodwill towards men is associated with love, grace, and peace. And forgiveness takes love. Dropping your pride takes love. And the enemy attacks children. If he can get them as children and get them before they cultivated these centers strong enough, then he can get them in a state of permanent possession. Because he can't really get up. I mean, maybe it's possible, but it's much, much, much harder when you understand where I'm coming from for somebody that's an adult that has cultivated love and creativity and common sense for years and then goes down a road to where they can shut it off. I mean, that's much, much harder to do and much, much harder to believe. That's why once you get past a certain age, if you still can operate in a status of love, this type of stuff is going to be hard to do permanently. But if you have no love, no creativity, and no common sense, this started at an earlier age. And this is where the enemy attacks these individuals. And what I think happens is there is probably some grace here. There's some grace here because they had this stuff started at an earlier age, or they, God has grace on who he decides, right? Because he tugs at our hearts daily. And what happens, in my opinion, from stuff and people that I've known that ended up this way, is they had, whether it was trauma or childhood issues or childhood injuries at a young age, once they get into adolescence, then these entities will make sure that some sort of traumatic experience occurs. And this is where everything probably goes out the window at that point. This is where they're full on. And you can, I'm not even going to say it, but you know the different things that could cause something in early adolescence, an injury like that. Then at that age, they have like a second trauma that's much worse. And I think what happens is when you follow like the empath, for instance, it's kind of like this. If your innate self is not going to, take on evil, if you're going to refuse the evil, which is a great thing, praise God for that. What seems to happen in the empath is that, now don't hear me wrong, this is for the people that are really got their ears operating the right way now. It's possible that you could get thrown into this love too much thing, to where that can be in a detrimental situation to some degree too, because you can give too many people too many chances, and you can give people so many opportunities to where you'll get destroyed doing it. So the enemy is always attacking people. I mean, and people for the ways that they feel like they can take them over completely, take them over partially, or put them down a destructive road so they can be controlled by somebody evil. And a lot of times what you find with the empath is they will give an individual that's completely destructive opportunities until they're under the ground. And so that's part of my point that I'm getting at, is there was certain people, that when Christ walked the earth, he spoke little to a man, and he was kind of straight up with him, and he kept it moving. But for a lot of empaths, it seems they will continue to try to save somebody who is completely destructive and destroying your life every single day. But you got to understand, what you almost probably fell in love with was almost the demon that's controlling the narcissist. But that's why they're always projecting, triangulating, and manipulating out here, because they're being told that they're perfect. And when you have no love, you can only think hot or cold. You can only think black or white, with black or white thinking. And you can only do evil. And the construct is built with this black and white thinking so much, because what it does is, if anybody gets close to even thinking about getting them to understand that they got some sort of problem, it throws them into a rage state, or a state to where they will disappear on you, because it doesn't, well, they don't have the ability. You need love to process this any further in a righteous way, to understand that you have a problem, to understand that you need to change, to understand that you have too much pride and you're not perfect and you need to forgive yourself. And with a narcissist, they just don't have that part of the brain anymore. It's impossible, is what it looks like. And so I just wanted to let you know about that, because what you'll find also is, when you hear the Illuminati, the people that these secret societies that rule the world over us, when you hear, when they talk, they always say, do as thou wilt, meaning do whatever is necessary to reach your goal by any means necessary. Whoever you got to put down, destroy, who cares? It's by any means necessary. Do what you want. Get it done, and by any means necessary. Whoever you got to run over or put down, destroy, whatever. And then you'll find, when you hear people from witchcraft say the exact same thing, do as thou wilt. And then the narcissist is, when you look at their actions and what they do, they're doing as thou wilt as well. And anytime you hear that or see that, you have to know that they're dealing with demonic possession at the least bit, at the minimum, to where they're probably dealing with demon possession and they have no love. They have no ability to even get delivered. To where somebody can have childhood wounds, but not walked in a construct to where they shut all these things completely down, and they could have got trauma later, and if they got oppressed and they got possessed, but then they have the ability to still get delivered, because those process centers are still give them the ability to have will to change. Where in the narcissist, it's impossible if they cannot cultivate love. And listen, I mean, what I'm speaking on is there's scriptural stuff here. It's not like I'm making this up and stamping God's name on it, but there are people out here like this, and I can't find where else they would be. But what happened is now you got these individuals ruling over us completely, and now society's construct is becoming just like it. And this is where it's becoming a detriment to society completely. And anytime you try to help these people, you're feeding them. You're aiding and abetting them. And whenever you back them up, you're lying for them. You're giving them false witness. And it's all to your detriment. And I understand that a lot of people don't want to give up hope on some individuals, but I don't think, to some degree, you should give up hope, but I mean, to some degree, but you got to do it from, if you're gonna have hope, and you got to do it from far away, meaning you still need to never see them again, never talk to them again, because you're never going to be the one to help them. But it also talks about love deferred makes the heart sad, or something like that in the word. And when you walk down trying to save the narcissist by any means necessary, all you're doing is hurting your own soul. And so when you get involved with these individuals, they leave pieces of them in you. And that's in hopes that it will destroy you as well. And if it doesn't destroy you with the side of anger and unforgiveness, then it may destroy you with you trying to love them to death. because it will also perform death on you. There are certain people that God said have nothing to do with. And so I wanted to put that together today, because this is, in my opinion, a little bit more precise on the construct I spoke about a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not wearing my sunglasses, for all you guys who think that wearing sunglasses is a bad thing because you want to see my eyes. I understand that, but you should know a person by their fruit. I listen to people online that wear sunglasses, but it's fine. I don't have to wear sunglasses if that is going to make people stumble. But I got my visor up, so I don't have the sunglasses on. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say today, and I can't take the sunglasses off for the past videos that I did when nobody knew me at all. So, but I am probably not going to wear them at all anymore, because I don't want to create any kind of issues to where if I have something good to say, I want you to hear it, you know? But that's all. And if they can't, those, you know, they want you to be destroyed just like the narcissist. So if they can't get at you in one way, they're going to try to get at you by you loving them to death. So until next time, sold you up, stand tall, peace out. I love you all. We out.